July 8th. Hi, my name is Dave Dean. I'm the chairman of the airport of
Yay!
of the Scituate Waterways Commission, and it's great to see everybody here. We're going to be having our normal meeting that we have monthly, and we're going to talk about several issues, including the possibility. We're going to look at the feasibility study for a possible harbor master building. We're also going to be talking a little bit about our finances, as well as our capital improvement finances for the next 5 years, as well as our normal business. So that's going to be the goal. The way I like to run my meetings is I want everybody to have the ability to be able to offer comments. I want to make sure that everybody has a chance to be heard. And we will try to do this in a nice, easy manner. And we really appreciate everybody being here. With that said, I'd like to call the meeting to order at 6:01. We need to read our statement of commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. The Scituate Waterways Commission is committed to providing an environment of respect during meetings. We ask that all members to interact in a polite manner, even when there is a disagreement. We value the participation of our community, and we want all participants, including marginalized and minoritized communities, to feel welcomed and respected. We ask that our committee members and all who participate to commit to these standards to support and respect our community. Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to accept the agenda.
Move to accept the agenda.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Item 4, motion, the acceptance of minutes. I'm going to push the minutes off because, well, they're still not perfect and they're trying to get there. Correspondence. We had none, but we actually got one in, and I thought it was appropriate to read it to everybody. This came in from Mike Bierce, who's the Assistant Harbor Master. Dear David Deneen and members of the Scituate Waterways Commission, on behalf of the Scituate Harbor Masters Department, I would like to extend my sincere thanks to each of you for your continued support and collaboration during the opening of the harbor this season. Your active involvement with thoughtful guidance and dedication to Scituate's waterways plays a vital role in ensuring safety, efficiency, and overall success of our harbor operations. The support you provide, not only during major events like the harbor opening, but year-round, is the cornerstone of a great working relationship we're proud to maintain between the Harbor Master's Office and the Waterways Commission. The annual opening of the harbor is a celebration of who we are as a coastal community. It brings together residents, visitors, boaters, and businesses alike, fostering a shared sense of pride in our harbor and in our town. Whether it's a family watching the first boats leave their moorings or neighbors gathered at the docks to reconnect after a long winter, this moment symbolizes the start of the season filled with connection, activity, and appreciation for life on the waterfront. Working together with such a committed and knowledgeable group has made a meaningful difference, and we deeply appreciate your time, insight, and shared passion for the Scituate waterfront community. Thank you again for all you do. We look forward to continuing a strong partnership in seasons ahead. With gratitude, Michael Bierce, Assistant Harbor Master, Town of Scituate. Thanks, Mike.
Very nice.
Yep, that event, if people had not had a chance to come down, one of the things that we've been working on, so everybody's aware, is we're really trying to get the harbor a little bit more involved with some of the things that happen around the town. It seems that the business association down at the harbor is a little bit more invigorated, and we've been included a little bit more, and we've been working with the Economic Development Commission and just trying to get involved with some of their marketing plans. And as we get into a little bit of our meeting later on, you'll hear that we're working on another event, which again is trying to bring our community down to our harbor that we all love. So that's pretty cool. And with that, I don't know whether or not anybody has heard about the Impossible Dream. The Impossible Dream is it's a catamaran that runs up and down the coast that is able to provide rides to people that are not able, that don't have the ability to be able to get on a boat. They left Miami a couple of weeks ago. This is their 11th annual trip up and down the coast. They're visiting 21 cities, including Scituate, and they will be at our docks July 13th through July 14th. Stephen, any more information on the Impossible Dream?
I think Bill Donovan should probably speak to it. Bill and I started working on this probably back in
November or December. But
Mr. Donovan,
Bill Spearhead.
I'm Bill Donovan, 11 Doctors Hill Drive, Scituate. I've become familiar with the impossible dream many years ago. My wife and I travel every summer down to the vineyard on our boat. We stay in New Hampshire and met the impossible dream. It's a 60-foot purpose-built catamaran funded by a woman who sustained a spinal cord injury and ended up in a wheelchair. Had this boat built. It's something to see. Catamaran. You go around the whole perimeter of the boat in a wheelchair. They have lifts on each side of the boat to take people up to the boat. And there's lifts inside the boat that get out and down to the restrooms. And we've seen them go out of New Hampshire and they take out people with varying disabilities. And the captain approached me last year. He said, we sail right by Scituate. I've never been in there. I said, would you like to come in? He says, we'd love to. We love new places, So there's heard a lot of good things about it. But spoke to Steve, no on the harbor. We've had a boat down in the harbor for a gazillion years. And knowing the harbor, I said, this is a 60-foot boat. And about a 28-foot beam. Where the heck would that fit? So the T head down the end. It's gonna be tight, but it's gonna work. And one of the lobster boats, if you have a northeast wind, kind of restricts that corner. But he graciously
He's moving to the town here for the weekend.
you were on vacation. I went by one day in my little boat. Okay. He said, yeah, we're happy to help out. So they squeeze it in this year. This is the inaugural visit. Normally they stay longer. They have affiliations with different groups of hospitals. And they gonna come in Sunday afternoon, stay overnight, and take a group out Monday morning. And I've had to reject people. And as being, they call me the port ambassador for Scituate. And what that entails is raising donations. It's all, there's no charge you on this book. It's all, donations that fund it. And line up the people. And some of the stories you hear, it's heartbreaking. That we don't know how good we have it. It's a lot of work, but it was a pleasure to do it. I hope we will. So when you see the people come in to the breakwater, they're laughing, cheering, blowing horns, they have a ball. And their purpose is to demonstrate the importance of making something handicapped accessible. And secondly, to demonstrate, even though you might have had a spinal cord injury in a wheelchair, you can still do things. You make modifications in your life. And it encourages people to see what can be done. So it's a quick visit this year. Hopefully, if it works, they come longer and more trips. Because they typically will go out twice a day. 10 o'clock in the morning, 2 in the afternoon. So they're going to be here, and once they disembark the book Monday, pray for good weather. We're going to they'll set sail for small rehab in Charlestown, and they'll be there for about 8 days. And they go up as far as Maine and turn around and go back. The captain actually helped cast off my bodies this morning down in New Hampshire. He's a nice guy, They're a great crew. They're well respected. You look at their website, theimpossibledream.org. It's impressive what they do and what they accomplish.
well, that's great. Thank you. And Stephen, thank you.
The marina, Cole Parkway Marina, when I started here, we decided to renovate the whole marina, and one of my goals was to make the marina ADA compliant, which it is. So that's why this Navy put long gangway, low tide to high tide moves 14 inches. So it's much more accessible to people with disabilities. I had a family friend that was disabled on a boat, and so it's kind of close to my heart. We have I think a half dozen slips that are ADA compliant now in the marina.
Yeah, I went down and measured everything, gave them the.
Yep.
I did a video of the setup, the water down the gangway, down and left, and it's gonna be tight. So it'll overhang a little bit, but I've had some sleepless nights. Wondering about this, getting it in, getting it out, the weather.
It'll work.
And lining up people, But lining up people has not been a problem. We're coming across Buzzards Bay this morning, we're going right twice. People wanting to come. I've had to turn them down, just no room. But they can take 18 people and 9 wheelchairs. If they're a power wheelchair, then that increases the number. But the captain is pretty loose at the wheel rate. He put more people on.
80 people, one trip,
I mean,
one trip.
this year, 1 trip.
Okay.
You know, they typically, they do it in New Hampshire for over a week, but they've been going there for years. When they go to Spalding Rehab, they're gonna be there, I believe the schedule is 9 days. They'll go out a couple of times a day and load up the boat. But this is the inaugural visit, we squeezed it in, and see if it would fit, and, you know, get space for it.
No, that's great. We really appreciate that. Things like that, you know, just to show off our beautiful harbor, bringing that type of access, that accessibility to our harbor, the things that we're really trying to focus on, and something like that is just great. So
Right,
Thank you.
everybody, take a look at their website, theimpossibledream.org. And it's impressive what they do and the pictures they have, you know? And feel free, there's a button, donate.
great, great. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. One other item on the chairman's report, just so everybody knows, Susan Harrison has been reassigned as our liaison from the select board. As everybody knows, Susan's very passionate about our waterfront and has been really helpful with us. So happy to have her back on board. Mr. Moan, Harbor Master's report.
So, Cohasset, Scituate have reached an agreement on shared harbor. Down in Scituate, Cohasset announced they've reached an agreement to resolve their pending disputes over the shellfish in the outer portions of Cohasset Harbor located in Scituate. Cohasset agrees to dismiss with prejudice its appeal the decision of the Attorney General decision disapproving the so-called navigation of bylaws adopted by the town of Cohasset meeting. It also agrees to dismiss their, with prejudice, its appeal to DMF, Division of Marine Fisheries, decision authorizing Scituate to grant agricultural license in portions of the outer Cohasset Harbor in Scituate. And the Scituate Select Board's issuance of agricultural licenses. So that's what we stand with that. There's more, everybody wants to read it. It kind of goes on and on. They've resolved their disputes.
It's good. So we'll be no longer having assets over there this summer.
Not unless
Unless they need something. It's good.
And Stephen, I believe you said that's a 3-year agreement.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
So they'll continue to control the bonds. So
They will. Yeah.
Right.
Is there any
Will-
discussion?
in the revenue.
Well,
All revenue flows to them.
so with the revenue that was that was paid, what happens with that? Do we know what happens with that this year's revenue?
If somebody paid both towns, then we would refund their money for this year only. But not go back to last year.
Mhm.
But they provide documentation, to my office, that I can provide it to town hall, and we would issue a check.
And
But they
that's-
have to provide
Go ahead, Stephen, I'm sorry.
that they paid both towns.
And it might be 2 buckets of revenue. One, the mooring fee, and the second, the waterway use fee, if they paid that as well.
Yeah, it's just whatever they paid this year.
Right, so my estimate was about 40 moorings, give or take.
Like that.
Yeah, so it's probably gonna be about a $16,000 to $20,000 revenue reduction go
If they
forward.
paid both towns. If they just paid us, then we're not giving the money back in Cohasset.
Correct.
Okay. Oh,
At least that's my understanding.
and that's what I heard too. We'll dig into that and try to figure out where that number is.
Yep,
Great.
I think it's gonna be hard to figure out because Cohasset's supposed to provide us documentation of what paid and they're not doing that. So, all right, anybody have any questions on Cohasset?
Nope.
South River Dredge Grant, so. Marshfield and Scituate, put in for a grant application, for permitting of South River to dredge it. Marshfield was denied because they're not in the MBTA, housing.
Communities Act.
Huh?
Communities Act.
Communities, yeah. So, Jim Boudreau sent an email to Ellen Kabula at, Seaport Economic Council, and says, the town of Scituate requests to be designated at the lead, the application on the Scituate Dredge application. We will work with Marshfield to complete the project with alternate sources of funding, and we'll move forward expeditiously. Please see revised paperwork. My understanding, after speaking with Mike DeMayo, is that Cohasset would not be receiving any dredge money from the state. We would just receive half, so they have to come up with their full budget. All right, anybody have any questions on the South River? Scituate Harbor dredge permits.
I'm sorry, can I back up 1 second on that Southwood River dredge? So if they have to go forward and, I guess, go back to town meeting, go
I don't know what they have to
Market?
do. I don't know if
Yeah.
they have all their money. Normally, if I am looking for something, a grant.
Yeah.
I have to get full amount without the grant.
Oh, okay,
I
yeah.
don't know how they do it.
In Markfield.
You'd have to
Okay.
ask them.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if that's gonna push the timeline out with my one right now, so.
No idea.
Okay,
And Stephen, one other question. I'm sorry, Mike, you done?
I'm done now.
Thank you. Our share was what, 750?
Yeah,
So are you expecting like a $3 million total dredge or no? My number's off.
I think we have earmarked $3 million for the total. grant.
Got it. All right, thank you.
And they would not be receiving the 50% of the dredge as well.
Right, so theoretically,
They
they'd,
pay 20 for the permits, and 50/50 for the dredge.
so they'd have to
And
come
as
up with
it
1.5
stands,
as a town.
We would have to come up with their portion of permits, which I think were about $500,000, so $250,000. And they'd have to come up with $1.5 million on top of that for the dredge. It could be more, could be less.
Okay,
Come up with it.
Then we don't dredge.
which is a problem, obviously.
So maybe we need a joint meeting with them.
I've spoken with Harbor Master DeMayo, who is also one of our alternates here in Scituate. He lives in town. And we're going to be meeting in the fall with the waterways of Marshfield. We haven't figured out either September or October as a joint meeting to try to figure out what we can do together. So that's coming.
Not to go down a rat's hole on this one, but I know there was discussion about a potential of investigating an emergency dredge. Yes, no?
Without any money. Can't dredge it, there's no money.
No, I understand that. It'd be really nice if we could, though.
Make things a lot easier. Great dredge without permits.
No, but.
Go ahead,
Rick?
Rick.
Long time ago, at least, there was an option for a true emergency dredge,
As far as going?
and I think Howie, I don't remember all details, but I think it was early in the days when there was this sort of a community dredge operating for a while.
Oh, right.
Paratide. So then
Say what?
the state basically came in, they didn't do a full dredging project like they're requesting, but they at least came in and blew out some hotspots that were literally life and limb dangerous. I don't know if there's any opportunity. No, but yeah, state's not rolling the bucks either. But I do wonder if there's some safety pathway.
I believe Harbor Master DeMayo was investigating that. At least he indicated that post the last meeting. So maybe we can follow up with him and find that out as well.
We've been really focusing for people that know the North and the South River and that entrance into the South River. There's been a lot of changes, and I know that the Coast Guard had to come out, I think it was last month, and remark so that people aren't having challenges going in and out of there because things underneath it really getting pushed around. So we're asking often that if you're running aground, coming or going, that you let either Harbor Master's office from Scituate or Marshfield know. That way it helps with our justification if we have to get into a case where we have to go and request emergency funding. Anytime, I think as a lot of you guys know, anytime you go for any type of a state or a federal grant, it's all about justification. So if something's going on and you're hearing about things, please have them reach out to either harbor master office, and that'd be very helpful. Thank you.
Scituate Harbor Dredge permit, where we stand with that. At this point, we're waiting on the Army Corps of Engineers to issue a suitability determination. Once they issue the SD, we will know where the dredge materials can be taken in Cape Cod Bay or Mass Bay disposal site. And then prepare permit applications, starting with the notice of intent, Scituate Conservation Commission and others. Mass DEP water quality certification, Mass DEP Chapter 91 permit, CZM federal consistency determination, and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers permit. Assuming the SD is issued by the end of July, Woods Hole Group has put together the following schedule for submittal of permit applications. Notice of intent, August 31st. Water quality, September 31st. Mass DEP, Chapter 91, October 31st. CZM, federal, November 15th. U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, November 30th. Scheduled meeting that we would have permits in hand for dredging in the winter of 26-27. Army Corps of Engineers, they're very helpful.
Stephen, doesn't Army Corps of Engineers have up to 180 days to approve? And don't they usually last that long?
They last longer than that.
I'm just thinking that's a rather aggressive schedule. If November, they get the paperwork.
If-
6 months out would be the
if-
spring,
yeah.
right?
This is all if.
Okay. So we're really looking,
Which was years before they got approved.
so assuming that the schedule that by next summer, everything's approved, yada, yada, yada. We then would go forward with a grant request, correct?
Yeah. Gotta have all permits. in
Understand.
hand.
I'm just plotting out the debt service costs.
Yeah.
So we're really looking, we just entered FY 26, so we're really looking probably more at FY 28 or 9 before we would be doing dredging. Okay, on the harbor.
I mean, if we get them in hand.
Right.
Yeah, it would be. We're in 26 now,
Right,
it would be 27. The earliest.
the earliest, right, because a year from now, you
Year
would get,
from now.
have all the permits.
We'd have all, we'd have the permits.
Then we have to go to, then we have got to go to town meeting to get the money, then we got
Have the money. Have all the money in need.
to do the harbor dredge,
The harbor dredge, that's what, I'm not talking about anything but the harbor dredge.
okay?
That money is already approved. That's how. We already.
That was-
we
you're
did
right.
Discuss that.
No, you're right, that was done in the last spring.
We do it in 27.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
The last time I think Woods Hole Group was here was probably a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago. I've lost track of time. Would it be beneficial if we invited them to our next meeting to get their senses where this goes? Because it seems like we keep talking about we're at the mercy of this and we're at the mercy of that. And I'm not sure I'm buying all those mercies, but maybe it might be a good time. I think it was at least a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago, where they had a timeline. And how does that compare to what Stephen has just told us, that this revised or this timeline, maybe it's the same one?
Yeah, I
This
think
is
we,
their timeline.
yeah, we saw them about a
No.
year ago. And they said that the permitting on the Army Corps is 24 months.
Minimum.
So not a bad idea though, Howie. Maybe we should, Stephen, maybe we should reach out to Woods Hole Group. Get a,
No problem.
Is it still Leslie?
Leslie Fields.
Okay.
any other comments, questions from commission?
Be clear. I don't know if anybody else heard, I heard it, so I'm sitting right next to him. Those dates that he was reading came from Leslie Fields.
Right,
I think she's just gonna tell you the same thing when it comes here, but
Oh, she can,
wanna come up
We
here?
have the conversation.
no, we can do it online.
Fine with me.
Yep. Right.
I got you. There you go.
Any other unforeseen expenses or anything else?
No, got some work.
Who's
going
up
on
next?
in Unit 3. Engineering work, but split between us and fire department, so.
And I noticed the post.
Oh, did you put works here today?
Or is it?
You know, transmission work, bunches have much problems. We're almost curious, is it not Scituate Waterways?
It is, oh, okay. Thanks. Any other questions for the harbor master? Anybody from the audience, any questions for our harbor master? Thank you.
Welcome. Okay.
Yes, sir. Name and address, please, sir.
Bob, non-certified.
Thank you.
Is there any update on, the Scituate SA buoy in the North River? Approach buoys and what the Coast Guard's gonna do?
Well,
They were asking for feedback, back in the middle of July. And they have now put together any information back out to us as to what their plan is. They're reviewing everything. Federal government does not move very quick.
Mr. Murray.
Yeah, I'm not speaking for the Coast Guard, but I happen to speak to a colleague of mine up there, and that person reminded me that the deadline for responding closed 2 weeks ago now. The person indicated they had maybe 1,000, 1,500, maybe 2,200, I forget the number, comments. That they're in the process of going through them all one by one. Every single one gets read by a human. Every single one gets, sure they have some categorization.
So 1,000 just for up here or up, but they were talking about the whole coast.
Old
They
district.
went to that email about.
Yeah, I think there were like 1,400 buoys up and down the coast.
Right, yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
And that's
one
the
per.
number. offhand.
Yeah. That's what
Hmm.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Financial. Mr. Brian Kelly.
Welcome
to
we can
the
do the
jungle.
share here.
Brian, before you get into
Hello.
some of our 5-year plan, did you just want to give a commission a quick update on Scituate Boat Works?
Sure, I can do both.
Thank you.
If you click share, try that.
I did.
No, click it again, the green,
I
and
did.
then say hello.
So, allow multiple, that's, so Seth has got to let me do this now, right?
Mr. Cronin, you are sharing your screen, so if you want someone else to share, you need to stop.
There you go.
Doesn't share it well with.
No,
other
he
people.
doesn't play well, does he?
I'm sorry, who's trying to share?
Brian Kelly.
Mr. Kelly, you're a co-host. You should be able to share.
There you
Right. Oh, but I'm not sharing back here. So nobody out there can really see. I'm sharing it with you and me.
go. Yeah,
That's really helpful to the audience here.
that's not,
We do see it on the Zoom side.
yeah, so.
Yeah,
I-
but there's
And that's
5,
you.
45, 50 people
hang
here
on, hang on.
staring at the back of my laptop.
Pointing.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
There we go.
There we go. Great. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So for fiscal year 25, which just ended, and I'm gonna wrap this in with Scituate Boat Works. Scituate Boat Works owed us about 1.5 years. The lease payments were delayed due to the fact of the Monahan's acquisition and delay in their taxes being finally paid, and they have to pay us 6 months thereafter. So anyway, with that, we should have a sizable drop down to our retained earnings. We budgeted about 1.4 in total revenue. I believe we will crest that. We'll probably come close to 1.6. I'm anticipating in excess of $300,000 dropping down to our retained earnings, which coupled with the fact that we have 214,000 in retained earnings right now, that'll bring us north of $500,000, which is the comfort level that we want. We want to get back enough to 500,000 to 600,000. We purposely let it fall low because of the fact we knew we had some debt service coming off and an awful lot of projects, the Cole Parkway project, as well as some other projects that were online that required contributions out of retained earnings. So retained earnings are great. Expenses are in target. Stephen, thank you very much. And then, the final numbers won't be available. Nancy Holt, the town, accountant, finance director, was, working on those numbers as of, last week, right before the holiday. I had meetings with her. So probably for our next meeting, we'll have final numbers, not certified, but final numbers, and we'll know the exact number. So the Waterway Enterprise Fund is very healthy. We're back to where we want to be with retained earnings, and now we'll jump right over to the Harbor Master Complex, so to speak.
So before we get into that,
We
just
probably
so-
have a discussion on the feasibility study before I start talking about this.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. As everybody knows, our Harbor Master Building has been around since, how long, Stephen?
1981.
And as we were talking about, one of the challenges that we're dealing with is accessibility. Especially with the Impossible Dream coming in, it just sort of ties into our discussion tonight. The goal is to try to have a little bit better access. The building is, if people has been in it, you understand that you can't get wheelchairs in there. The bathrooms are really tight. It's hard for our staffing. So the town asked, put together a feasibility study group. Rick Murray and Stephen were on it, along with several other well-placed members in community, including who else was on the board? I'm sorry.
Paul Scott, he's the former town engineer. Bob Vogel, he's a building commissioner. Corey Miles, she's coastal resource officer. Sean McCarthy, town engineer. Myself, harbor master. Rick Murray as the representative for Waterways.
So the goal has been, and we allocated $168,000 to do a study to sort of look at the feasibility and see whether or not it's something that would make sense in that area. A public bid went out, and we contracted with a company up in the North Shore. And they put together some plans and some specs and some pricing. Those are online for everybody to see. The process has been available for people to look at the renderings of the drawings, number one, and number two, we've had a couple public meetings to talk about the possibility. And again, this is just a possibility. So what we've been really trying to nail down is, if we do a type of building, number one, what's the building going to look like? How is it going to be funded? And then what are we going to do? Are we going to include certain aspects and elements of the building? Did anybody else want to talk a little bit more about the look and the aspects of the building?
Building. When I first started this process, I came here and we discussed becoming ADA compliant, so that everyone could access the docks, the harbor master facilities, bathrooms, showers, the building itself. Because right now, the building is not ADA compliant. We're in a chair, very difficult to navigate around that building. So I came here first, and then we went select board and town administrator. We went to town meeting. And I was tasked by the town administrator put out an RFP. Well, with an architect to do design and do schematic drawings and come up with a feasibility study on the project. That's all this is a feasibility study. Can it be done? So when we started this process, it was a harbor master building with bathrooms for the public, because there's really not a lot of bathrooms down at Cole Parkway. And when you're going out and about, it's just not, if you're a boater coming in out of town and you want to take a shower, you're walking across a hallway in your towel, going to the bathroom to get dressed. If you have little kids, you know, it's just not a great setup. So we tasked Olson Lewis Plus Architects from the North Shore. They designed from the Harbor Master office and the Newburyport Harbor Master office. They looked at Marion Harbor Master office, and also Marshfield Harbor Master Office. They came up with, we came up with a list of wants and needs that was based on community input. The meeting were open to the public, people came in. They had little sticky notes that, you know, what would you want, what's most important? And all these notes.
Was that the real number?
They went through the notes and asked for a little bit more information on what people wanted. They came back with a plan. And it was a pretty good plan. And then part of the plan was, we want to include the Coast Guard in the facility as well, or do we want to just continue to look at the old green building that's falling down? So we came up with the pricing for both. Actually pricing for just the Harbor Master building. The Harbor Master building,
No.
bathrooms for the public, and then for transients, and then a Harbor Master building with bathrooms for public and transients, and Coast Guard. So we came up with 3 different prices, and then we also came up with cost to renovate facility that's there, which would be virtually impossible to do because it's on a concrete slab. The interior walls are a concrete block. The outside walls are wood. So if you started to raise it, it would probably break apart anyways. But they give some cost estimates on what it would cost if you actually could do that. It looks like a really big building, but the way it's designed, it actually takes up a little less space than the 2 buildings today. It is higher, obviously, because we have to aim the flood standard if this is built. But the way it's built, it's kind of long and narrow. Where most facilities on the waterfront are, the least amount of anybody's. You would build condos. You're still going to be looking out the harbor. You're still going to be looking along the sides of the buildings that are there today. You may not get right in front of the Harbor Master building, but you're going to see on the other side. That's about it. That's what we got. Came up with prices and drawings. Yeah, it's a lot of questions we want.
Mr. Murray.
Yeah, if I can follow up, I was taking notes on what I was gonna say, and Steve checked off every single one of them, except one that I wanted to point out. For the audience members who aren't familiar, I see a lot of new faces here. Just a reminder of this committee, this commission is advisory only in nature to the Board of Selectmen, to the board, select board. And so any project that gets approved has to go through full review by the select board. Multiple conversations at town meeting, probably more conversations back here after final budgeting and final construction costs are, final design is selected, the final construction costs are put in, and so on and so forth. So this is a really beginning of a long process, most likely. And this commission here doesn't decide anything. We just advise to the select board. And as Stephen said, and Chairman Deneen said, it's a feasibility study, and I don't want to say just a feasibility study in a dismissive tone, but it is a feasibility study based on community input, a lot of feedback about public bathrooms, a lot of feedback from the Harbor Master office with comparisons to other Harbor Master buildings. So what do you need in a modern Harbor Master facility for safety? Basically, we were tasked with finding, like, is a building on that site would be permitted, given all the, the zoo regulations? Yes, it's can be permitted. Can a functional facility fit on site? That's where you get into the 3 options. Just essentially a skinny model of Harbor Master only. Steve said Harbor Master plus mobile facilities, and then add on perhaps the Coast Guard. God knows what the Coast Guard is going to be doing. They're facing some budgetary challenges and some mission changes as well. I don't know if anybody's noticed, but the Coast Guard hasn't exactly been around a hell of a lot these days. And we tasked the consultant very specifically with severability. So if the Coast Guard's not gonna be part of this in 2 years' time, they just block off on the plans. The Coast Guard stuff and the building site becomes smaller, costs go down, et cetera, et cetera. So, that's basically where we are.
Uh,
I particularly want to emphasize the costing. I mean, if this committee was to recommend the, that all is groovy to the board and the board should go ahead with further studies, then the board would have to go ahead, start doing costing, we're a couple years away at least of anything happening, at least. And so by then, all the numbers have to be redone by looking at what's going on. We've got tariffs going on, we got everything else. What the actual cost would be. But it is important, we have done some homework on the pricing just to get sort of a relative scalar. To see where we are, to make sure we're in a feasible range and also a realistic range. I'm sure we could build a great building for $100 million. But I'm also sure that for, $1 million, we couldn't. So where is it in between there? Right? And, so.
Oh, I'm sorry, may I just comment to this? Yes, sir. So, Rick, just a clarification, because as you mentioned to everyone here that, there was an advisory board to the select. But in actuality, we haven't advised anything. We haven't really debated or voted on anything. It's been you and Steve advising, being part of this process. I'll just speak for myself, and if others want to chime in, I feel alienated from the whole process. And I look forward to having a real conversation, motion and a vote, so we can send a message to the select as to what we believe. And I don't think we've done that yet. So.
Fine with me. I mean, I was just talking about the role of this commission in regards to town government. I was not at the last meeting, as you recall. The consultant did come in to, hear and heard everybody's input in a public meeting, got feedback.
Well,
I'm not disagreeing with anything you said.
I just don't want the people in the room who are not part of this to think that this pile of paper is something that we collectively support. That's all.
Dave, I want to say something to what you just said. I agree. This board, this commission has not seen the final proposal from the architect that was due at the first of this month. We have
Last
not
month.
July.
Last month.
Right. We haven't seen it, nor have we seen any of the cost estimates for the process. So I think everyone ought to be aware of that, to your point, that we don't have all the background information we would hope to at this point.
And that's been the point of this board, is to try to get as much information as we can, to try to come up with a reasonable decision. And then speak with a lot of the people that utilize the harbor facilities on whether or not it's something that's viable and feasible, and whether or not we can afford it. We're going to talk a little bit about that tonight and look at some of the options. Any of the other commission members have anything to say?
Well, I think that
Yes.
we needed something to start with.
Right.
We said, all right, we gotta knock down the harbor master building, going, no, how big is it gonna be? How much this? I think this at least gives us, I think these guys put in a lot of time, giving us something to start from. Otherwise, it's just a pie in the sky kind of thing that no one even can address, and so this at least I think gives us a start, but I don't feel alienated at all. We needed something to start from and talk about.
And I'd like to apologize to you guys, because I've been trying like heck to try to get a final version to be able to provide it to you guys, to be able to at least start to really dig into it. We're not there. We're here at another meeting, and we don't have the full details yet. And I'm sorry that we don't have all the information together, but we're glad you're here to be part of the process. And that's what we've always wanted, just to keep everybody involved in the process. Any other, TJ?
Mr. Chairman, I know on the agenda we have a vote or try to make a motion or recommendation to the select board. Do you think that's premature based on the conversation we're having about really having all the data in front of us? Moving forward?
Yeah, we did not put in on the agenda any type of a vote. It's more just a discussion. Brian?
I was actually, so a few quick points. So Stephen, thanks for an excellent summary. Appreciate it. Rick, thanks for the information as well. Just to expand upon what Rick said. He's absolutely correct. This is a multi-year project. before it even sees the, a town meeting. And besides the select board, it also has to go to capital and advisory. So this is very early in the process, and to all the new people in the room, this has been pretty heatedly debated, this project for the past several meetings. And I do agree with Howie and Dave that maybe it is time that we let the select board know, besides Susan, who obviously is not here tonight because there's a select board meeting. But she's obviously knows I believe what the feedback has been about the lack of total support for the entire project. So whether we do a motion or not, whether we have that ability, it's something I think that once we finish this, we may want to consider.
Very good.
Okay?
Question.
Yes, sir.
To add to the list, I think I'd forgotten about advisory and so on, probably Concom as well, given its location.
100% correct.
Planning
Oh,
board
yeah.
as well, because they're.
100%.
Yeah. So I missed last meeting, as you know, we're trying to follow it, but I was under the impression. Did Chris come and give another briefing last week?
No, he sent information to Stephen that morning or afternoon, which Stephen,
Yeah, but no,
in,
it's-
prior meeting.
it's not last week.
yeah, he
May
came to the May
13th.
meeting. He sent information to the June meeting, and there was a wide disparity.
Yeah.
And I had a conversation with Chris today.
Yeah.
So I can shed a little more light upon the disconnect.
Yeah.
The financial disconnect, that is.
Yeah, I just, as DJ's point, I wasn't anticipating a vote, 'cause we don't have the full report, we wouldn't know what that can vote on.
Well, that's the question I
So
have.
I'm just saying, so nobody's trying to pull a fast one here, and nobody's trying to alienate anybody, and nobody's trying to exclude anybody here. We've done a very good job, I think, keeping everybody as informed as possible. Even the pictures, the diagrams that were sent last time, I tried to forward to me, they were too big, and everything, so we're trying to be as open as we can, we're not there yet, like,
We haven't even completed our,
Yeah,
final
so-
discussion.
I wouldn't support a vote, just to be very
I heard,
clear.
I found you looking at.
You said that, I was a little worried.
Tonight, they've seen it in the.
Yeah, I think until we have all the information, we should go through the information that we have tonight.
Yep.
And the projections that we have been provided to us so far.
Yeah.
Look at it and then, then consider whether we wait till we actually have more concrete numbers on the final design before we do a vote, but, that was kind of my thoughts on it, so.
Good.
And also, before a vote, there should be opportunity for the people in the room to speak and ask questions because they haven't had.
Goes
that
without saying.
opportunity.
Guessing that's why we get a bunch of people here tonight for questions and review of it, so. And
So, Mr. Chair, when do you think we'll have this copy of the proposal? What?
Well,
why
I
do
talked to
we-
Paul Scott 2 weeks ago and he said he's trying to get a meeting together.
Well,
They were,
Mr. Murray, you're on the committee. Where's the report?
We haven't even finalized.
So those are the
But you
ones-
were asking for them.
Yep.
Right away, so I sent out,
so,
I had,
but
but we haven't even had our final
Right.
meeting to have a check to make sure we've completed everything we need to do.
generally,
Do you have a schedule for the final meeting?
they're $8 short, but.
I was on vacation, I'm sorry, I'm not coming.
So generally, we try to take a month off during the summer, but, we'll have to see with the board. What I'd like to do is, have Brian go through, what he has pulled together. Have some questions and
Like to
answers.
say, I mean, it would be helpful, we do this meeting tomorrow. I think. I've not talked to Stephen about this or anybody else, but I think if we say to Chris tomorrow, we'll get a time frame for getting the final report based on the feedback we hear tonight. And the feedback that he's gonna hear tomorrow when, as part of his presentation to our little committee. We'll get a date from him when we can get it, get the report. And then we can just probably have a special, I mean, it's obviously a hot topic. And rather than have publics around to hear all the other fascinating subjects that we talk at our regular meeting, we can have a special meeting on it, just make sure it's announced, and we could do that instead of our regular,
August.
Our,
We're generally.
a non-regular August meeting.
non-regular August meeting. This,
Right.
anything to do with that?
Okay.
Makes sense? Everybody,
Thank
That's
you.
just me talking, I'm not, one member of that committee and one member of this.
Mr. Chair, might we consider augmenting this ad hoc committee that's at the town hall with additional members from this committee? So we have additional input?
it'd be,
Not sure we have the authority. It's a select board. who
I would
appoints-
defer over to the ex-select board member at the table.
I'm not gonna speak for the select board, but I'm with Brian, I don't know the authority. And Howie, if you're saying I'm not doing a good job rather than, or a full enough job, rather than add, I'd be perfectly fine if someone wants to sit in instead of me on that. But, we got a meeting tomorrow. I've been to every single other meeting. I've got a long history with the project. We're reporting back everything we have. If people are not happy with the time frame, it's just because we're not having enough meeting.
Is the meeting open tomorrow?
No, these are generally closed.
These are closed meetings. Yep. I knew the answer. I was just saying it for the people in the room.
Yeah.
I think, that we would like to, know from the committee, a timeline.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's more.
and final report, and hopefully we'll have to call us a meeting in August where we can review everything, and be nice to be able to get all the documents about a week ahead of time before the meeting, which will give the board the chance to really get into them, which has been the challenge. So I think that's a good plan. Everybody feel good with that plan so far? Guys? Good. Brian,
I am fine. Oh, you were asking me to go.
let's go.
There we go.
Get moving.
I think that's all.
There you go.
Assuming that's the path that we're on anyway, so I mean, I don't see what the big challenge to that is, so let's just get this. Yeah.
Let's go over 26 Hughes Road. Is this the only location that you're considering? Would you ever consider the old Coast Guard station over on First Cliff?
That's owned by the federal government.
We
NOAA owns that building,
Right.
the old Coast Guard station, and NOAA's not gonna give it up.
Okay.
It's federal,
I mean,
yeah.
you
I think there'd be a lot of other
closer to the
federal
other-
agencies who want that building before we could get to it.
To answer the
But-
question though, this is the only location we consider. Or,
Yeah.
we didn't look at the old Pier 44 or something else. Or
Well, that's already gone too.
Right.
So there's not a lot of space available, and it's actually a pretty good location.
The marina right there. And
Yeah, be able to watch the both marinas. Yes,
I had two questions, but I believe you just answered one. Pier 44 is out of question for using it.
yes. They are getting their,
Name and address.
their permitting, right now. So could I get a name and,
Gate Street.
address, please?
Janet
Got
Taylor,
it?
129 Hillgate Street.
Thank you.
Maureen.
I knew.
Well, I also have a second question
Jim Fairbanks, he was the chairman of the Waterways at the time.
on.
Long
if
before me.
Trump eliminates the government Coast Guard, what is the price of just the harbor masters versus the whole thing?
We have that.
We'll go through that in a couple minutes. Yes, sir.
Bill Fairbanks, 129 Newgate Street. Are we gonna build a dike or a causeway to a safety building when Cole Parkway floods already?
Well, we are involved in the Cole Parkway effort, and Mike Gibbons is one of our liaisons on that committee looking at that challenge.
So that's a different group, but yes, the town is working on the Cole Parkway redevelopment. To include ways to help prevent stormwater flooding and to help protect the parking area in the stores and the shops, so.
And that will be included into.
No.
We in the town tend to picture one thing and we do one problem and we don't look at some other problem we're creating. And are we having a little,
Yeah, so
liaison between these?
I will say that Corey Miles, the town, what was her title?
Coastal zone,
Coastal Zone Resource Officer. She sits on both committees, so she helps tie in the different pieces as we look at pieces of this building here and what may need to happen behind it to kind of prevent from flooding. So yes, there's people looking at both projects at the same time.
And the consultant with the feasibility study has talked to the consultant with the Cole Parkway team as well, and they're working together. And yes, they're taking into account, I think, the next 100 years of potential sea level rise, as well as storm impacts. And so they're reorienting or building in where you can have sort of natural rounded areas to move the water in certain directions when it's coming in, and also equally importantly, when it's going back out, you know, as well. And then Bill, hopefully, as at least, again, feasibility, not final plan, but there's been every effort made to basically slide the whole thing west, so back towards the current Coast Guard waiting building. So it opens up not only more view, but it also opens up more area that can intentionally flood and intentionally de-water. So it's not the end solution, because the end solution is we're all treading water here in 100 years, literally 150 years, right? But over the time frame of realistic lifetime of a building and so on and so forth, they're doing everything possible to accommodate.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Mike O'Neill, 33 Circuit. I'm just curious what level of detail went into the feasibility study on alternatives and what those costings were. Are they part of the feasibility study review that we'll look at?
Yes,
What
sir.
actually would be done?
Yeah, well, as we've had some brief discussions here about the various sizes, shapes, and then costs, that'll be described here in a couple minutes. Yes, sir.
Kevin Callahan, 3 Millmore Plaza. I'm concerned about notice to abutters. At some point in this process, which everybody seems to know about, abutters are entitled to notice. Is anybody concerned about that?
We actually reached out to the Millwall, to the whoever manages the condos over there.
Yep.
Mr.
You say reach out, you mean what?
He came to the meeting.
Yeah, Bob Warner.
Bob Warner
Yeah.
came to the.
Yeah,
meeting.
we invited him.
Oh, he ignored our building.
Oh,
We never got a notice. I'm on the board. We're 124 Front Street. He doesn't like us. He thinks we're low.
Oh.
well, again, being a feasibility study, and we've been trying to be open so that everybody is aware of what's going on, and now that we're back, everybody's on the same page now, and we will do our best to make sure that everybody is engaged and has the ability to see what's going on to help make that decision, as we are all taxpayers of this town. We want to make sure that we are good neighbors, and happy to have everybody here. Any other thoughts or comments before we get into Brian's presentation? Yes.
Hi, Kathleen Baldwin, 124 Front Street. I went to the select board meeting. The engineer was talking about the flooding in Cole Parkway. I know it's kind of, my understanding is they wanted to involve all of the private ownership along the harbor as well, because they realized that independently trying to work just on coal would cause north of Cole major flooding.
Yes.
So I haven't gotten more of an update to my understanding on that.
That's
So
that's the Gold Parkway redevelopment.
It is, yeah. I'll comment quickly on it, but the town did get some additional funding to help look at some of those areas, at least from engineering and design design standpoint, so.
Yes, that's always with that public-private partnership. So there's been the opportunity to look past Cole Parkway, because as everybody knows, the water's not just gonna stop. Oh, hey, property line. No, that's not gonna happen. So looking at the possibility of extending that out, and but how that functions. So I'm sure Mike
Yeah,
and
Just to this gentleman from Millwall, just make sure you sign the sheet, and you can make sure that everybody who signs the sheet with the email address would be helpful. Then we can make sure that you get invited and are aware of our, agendas here, because it will certainly be posted here. And then again, with all the other ensuing committees, those will be green cards for providers and all that sort of stuff. And we also reached out to the business owners, so we reached out to the Chamber of Commerce and several other groups in the area, to make sure they were able to come to one of these charrettes that we ran. We ran 4 or 5 different community meetings where people were able to give input, not only about the design of the structure, but about what else they wanted. When they eventually got there, you see public bathrooms was a real big push from a number of people, and so on and so forth. That feedback came not from this committee alone, but from all those other public charrettes.
I just remember when the Salt Society was appointed, but tables and chairs for the restaurant on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Everybody in our complex, our condo, received written notice of what they were gonna do.
Yep.
That's a slightly different procedure, but this is a big project. Harbor Master is talking about whose view is gonna be affected. We are abutters. And,
This is,
it's like you're involved.
feasibility, I mean, we're not, you know.
Yeah.
I realize you're 2 or 3 years off. You're already thinking about the size and the scope of this building. And I think the neighbors, the abutters, the business people in the harbor should be aware of what the process is, and who's considering it.
That's why
What
we.
this committee is. I know you don't have the final word here, but, you know, you need to, notify the public.
Yeah, in addition to having your name and address, sir, it would be also helpful if you could let us know who the building manager is or your whole condominium manager is, who could also
On the
help,
board president. Yeah.
board president, whatever, so that person could also help get out word. And I'd say the same thing to the
Right.
person there on the wall, make sure,
Excuse me?
sorry.
Yeah.
I missed her name, but if you could make sure we have your name and address and who else we need to make sure is on the.
Thank you, I
communications so that
appreciate it.
everybody gets,
Yep.
informed.
That paper goes with this.
Yeah. Keep passing that.
I think it went down the hall.
He's coming back. It's sitting on the table.
Any other comments or questions, or you want to hear what Brian has to say?
That would be a first.
Okay, thank you. And everybody, I'm sorry, there's so many people out there. Hi, Kevin. I hope everybody, if people want to squeeze in and there's some room over on this wall, you can come right through here if you want to be able to see the presentation. Please come on in. It's okay. Yeah, you can come right through here and right across everybody, and there's some wall space at least. It's okay, we didn't know we were gonna have this, but I think it's okay. Fine. Here we go. Please.
Ready to roll?
Sir.
Okay. So what we're presenting here is we've received from the architect first stage estimates for what the costs would be for 3 different scenarios. Actually, a 4th, which will not be in this, and that was using the existing harbor master building, raising it. It became as expensive as a net new building, so that is not in these cost calculations. In May, the architect presented to us a set of numbers which were based upon surrounding cost of different harbor master buildings, that being Plymouth primarily, Marion, and Marshfield. As well as a couple of others that were not built that went out to bid. He subsequently put out a cost estimator to a separate company that came back with much lower pricing. That is exclusive of a lot of the other costs that would be associated with this. OPM, which is a project management company, which we use for several projects, legal, any type of paving that has to be done in a parking lot, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So instead, this is just a building as if it was on a pristine location on the lower side. In conversations with him, he agrees that they could be low. So what I've done is I'm going to give everyone a high and a low range. The build would be at least a predicted build would be in 29. We all believe that's way aggressive, but again, I'm just presenting the numbers here. So that being said, assumptions that went into this, for those that don't know, the town has the ability, every town in Massachusetts has the ability to go before Economic Seaport to get grants. The maximum town can get in a 1-year window is $1 million. Seaport has, Howie, Rick, Steve, less than $10 million a year to allocate out to towns, probably, give or take. And that's in good years. So when money gets tight, Seaport won't have money. We're entering a period where maybe that might be occurring. However, these numbers are being run as if during the life of the project, which would be done over 2 years, that we bite the apple twice and get 2 $1 million grants. Extremely optimistic, but that's how we're running the numbers. When we did the Cole Parkway Marina redesign, we were able to do that. We were able to go and get 2 different grants.
Right.
Yes,
Going too far, can I just ask a question? I think I know the answer to it, but the people might not.
yes.
Uh,
Oh, I thought that was the answer.
Where would this money be coming from in the sense of this be coming from the town tax base, or would this be coming from the Waterways Enterprise Fund, which is based on mooring and slip fees and other?
So that's a very good question that was actually, he's my front man here. The Waterways Enterprise Fund is responsible for 100% of the cost of this project. And we do that through a combination of grants and debt service. Any enterprise fund in the town is self, all the expenses are paid for within that enterprise fund. So for example, Widows Walk does not, the Widows Walk, there's several other enterprise funds. We do not tax anybody outside of the Waterways Enterprise Fund, AKA the mooring holders, the slip holders, the waterway use fee, all the way down to the sale of ice. So we do not receive any money from the town of Scituate, directly or indirectly.
And Scituate Boat Works lease.
Yes, that is
And
correct.
fees.
That is correct. So that being said, the hope is that we will be able to get a Seaport grant. If we can't, the wheels could come off the bus on this project. In the past, if you did a project which if the value of the market value of the structure exceeded 50%, the repairs or the work you have done exceeded 50%, you had to adhere to FEMA requirements, which was the raising of the building. FEMA, as a lot of people in this room probably are aware, has been neutered financially. And the BRIC program, which was introduced in 2017, has officially been ended, and that's Building Resiliency Infrastructure for Communities. And other towns, Marshfield, et cetera, have been able to tap into that process to help absorb some of the costs. We will not be able to do that, and those numbers are not in here. Continuing on, the town has only used, the Waterways Enterprise Fund has always operated on either a 15-year for dredging or 20-year for buildings, marinas. However, in this scenario, I've used the 25-year debt. It's only been used in two different times, one for the new water plant, secondly for the high school. However, in conversations with the town accountant, Nancy Holt, she felt comfortable that we might go that way. So again, the debt service numbers are going to reflect a lower number because it's a 25-year. As I've already mentioned, this is not an all-in cost, ergo the range I'm going to be presenting. And finally, it's no way to be able to predict inflation or crazy tariffs. So therefore, they're not included either. That being said, we'll get right off to it. So the first one up here, and I apologize, it's not the best visibility, but it's the best I could do. What this is, a harbor master only building. Again, as Rick and Steve talked about, it's almost 3 separate units sharing a common roof rather. Any one of them can be severed off. So that being said, the low estimate that we received at the last meeting from the architect was 4 million. The high estimate would be somewhere 6+ million. So assuming we get $2 million in grants, $1 million grants, we would have debt service of in between $2 and $5 million that we'd be looking at. So running the numbers, there's what I call in the waterways revenue, there's 4 buckets, for want of a better word, that make up 91% of our revenue. Scituate Boat Works is a 30-year lease, so we'd have no lever to pull there. We can't increase anything there. So the only one that we're looking at here, if we were to fund such a project, is the 3 other buckets, that being slips, moorings, and waterway use fee. What I did was I allocated that equally across the border on all of these. So the big 3 contribute, as I mentioned, 77% of our revenue. So current slip rate is 121. As you can see all the way down on the left-hand column, those reflect what the current rates are. If we did a $2 million finance debt service over 25 years, in conversations with our town accountant, it'd probably be somewhere of of additional debt service of $100,000. However, it would also take up some of the headroom we have in our current ability to utilize debt service. So in order to maintain healthy retained earnings, I allocated another $200,000 into that. That would bring this cost. So therefore, all my numbers are reflecting the higher number there of $300,000 required per year, a new revenue, or $500,000 on the higher end of this project. And accordingly, if I just allocated the increased revenue contributions from those three buckets, it would be the numbers that everybody sees there. I took for an example, I took a 25-foot residential marina marina patient today pays $3,150 and what it would go to under each scenario. So that's.
Excuse me, what's that number? That's it.
Sure, it's today between the 121 a foot and the 125 waterway use fee, someone with a 25-foot in Cole Parkway or the Maritime would pay $3,150.
What's that equate to per foot?
Yeah, how much is that for?
You're paying
today.
You're paying $121 a foot today,
For the resident.
right? For a resident base. You're paying $125 for the waterway use fee. If we did the low cost, the per foot rate would go to $155 and the waterway use fee would go to $160. If it was the higher end of this project, it would go to $178 a foot. And my number is wrong on the $160, it would actually be above that.
One other quick question.
Yes,
This scenario you said was the harbor master building only,
correct.
not the Coast Guard element, and not the handicap accessible restrooms and showers for the whole town.
That is correct. It'd be a 2,400 square foot building that is handicap, that's ADA compliant. That would have bathrooms. However,
For the harbor master.
for the harbor master, similar to today.
Okay, to answer your question, yes, it would have the bathrooms, that HDA compliant, correct?
Not for the public.
Not for the public.
Fucking error here.
And this is still a three-story building, right? Was there ever a plan to look at something which is 2 stories?
This is two
It's
stories.
a two-story building.
2-story on pilings.
Effectively, 3 stories, so it's on pilings. Is there a way to make it a once? You can't build it on the ground.
No, we can't. No, he's also talking about the second story where there would be office space up top, but we'll get to that.
We will? At another meeting, you mean?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Okay.
If I may, what's the current square footage seating the building now?
I don't have that. Brian, you have that?
I do.
It's in there.
It's in the.
Second or third last page.
I want to say it's around 2,000 square feet.
Something like that.
Bill?
That's all?
Yeah, I think it's around 2,000, 2,100, something like that.
Yeah, oh my goodness. Sure.
Get a cheap.
Thank you. Bring out a paper.
There you go. You got that?
So the existing harbor master facility is 2,000 square feet, the existing Coast Guard station is 2,000 square feet.
Small numbers. Context. My context are only so good on small numbers.
This is the proposed.
I don't have it, I gotta subtract out bathrooms in my head, so hold on.
24/6. No.
This is the, that's out. 400. Proposed is 2,000.
And then with the public bathrooms, it's 2,400?
Correct.
Yes.
Yes.
So it's,
Same size,
Yes.
basically, not 24.
sorry, Bill, I gave you the combined.
Yeah. And
Good.
and
But
Dave
it
Krakowski's
would have a garage under,
thing has to be raised,
not included in those.
has to be elevated for flood control and everything like that, but that space is actually usable.
Yeah.
It has breakaway and flow through and all that stuff, but it's usable for boats and trailers and stuff like that. But the current feasibility sketch designs are 1 story with the second story on top of it. So you said 3 stories. he's referring to from the ground floor. It's actually 2 stories of usable space. And it has a smaller footprint because it's got the same square footage, but on 2 stories. And it would be moved back.
Yeah, it's the same roof line as the harbor condominiums, basically. It's just look at that and just look straight across, and that would be what you see.
Brian,
Continuing on. Second scenario, again, there were 4, we're not considering the rebuild of the existing structure, raise it and rebuild, since it's the same cost as a harbor master building only. So the second one would be harbor master and public building, which includes the additional 400 to 500 square foot for public bathrooms, etc. The low cost on that came in at 5.5, high cost 8 million. Again, assuming 2 $1 million grants, we would need in between $200,000 and $400,000 in new revenue. And then when we add the $200,000, we look for it as a drop down in retained earnings, it would be $400,000 to $600,000. The increase on a slip would go to 167 on the low side for a town marina slip and 190 on the high side.
Mooring fees would go from 8 to 10.
Yep. All right. And the final one? Yes.
These are increases, not the cost per foot. On that column, it says increases, correct?
This is increases, right?
Increases to the existing slip rates?
So it will go, let's see, if I go back to the other one, it will go from 121 to 167.
So the increase is.
Okay.
Okay.
Wanted to clarify this increase.
Right.
Yeah.
Is the actual slip rate.
I have this over the same, these, yeah, I know. That's what happens when you're doing it at 4:30 this afternoon.
Yeah, trying to get the information.
Yes.
Yeah. Go ahead, Brian.
Yes.
Question?
Oh,
Quick question. In this scenario, see if I understand you, it's the harbor master building plus the public restrooms for showers, restrooms, whatever, for the whole house.
yes.
And for the public, general public.
And that's what I'm getting to. So the public, it's utilized by everybody on Front Street, the restaurants, the shops.
Yep.
What have you.
Yes.
And that will be funded by slip holders, the mooring holders.
Great question, Bill. One could argue,
Because this is something that benefits the big town.
Well, then that's a discussion we're gonna have to have.
All of that should be broken off. You look at other towns, other places I visit, they have beautiful harbor master buildings, but some of it, yeah, you have the restroom, but it's also, they have some separate ones. I understand. Yep. Yeah.
You're not gonna get a lot of disagreement.
Yep. Okay. All right.
Yes.
Yeah. I didn't really.
I think that's the same thing that we've been questioning.
We've been thinking about that as well, sir.
Right.
Yeah.
Somebody comes down in Front Street CVS or
Yep.
a shop.
And don't even talk about Heritage Days.
I know.
How we doing? Everybody good? Brian?
Final one. If we did, I'd like to call it a 3-building solution, a 3-unit solution. Each one has their own exterior walls, so they share a common roof, but that would be the inclusion of the Coast Guard. This one, I don't think there's any disagreement amongst anybody on the board that if the Coast Guard wants a building, then they should pay for it.
Yeah.
Amongst the Waterway Commission. And we've been extremely vocal about that. The current contribution from the Coast Guard is minuscule to the Waterways Fund. And either they figure out a way to pay for it through the federal government.
Grant, yeah.
Or we don't build it. And that is the position, I believe, of the majority of the board members at this table.
And Brian, you mind if I jump in?
Please do.
One of the great things about this board, it's a really diverse group of people. And we've got some former Coast Guard people and TJ, who's been on our board now for, I don't know, 5 years, 4 years?
4 years.
Former commander over Point Allerton. What's your thought on the Coast Guard and where are they going to be in 2029?
That's a good question. I am 4 years removed, but I was part of the effort to save Station Scituate 4 years ago, when the Coast Guard was looking at decommissioning certain seasonal units. I did take a look at the most recent budget, which is forecasted, which was signed, I think on 4th of July, and it does a lot more money for the Coast Guard going forward. I just don't know if that's broken up into different operational expense buckets. Does that go to shore infrastructure? Does that go to operational, on the water assets, or air assets? From a perspective of doing 31 years in the Coast Guard, it's on and off again, as far as decommissioning or keeping some of these seasonal units. It's very political driven. As you can see, there was a Dive and Save effort for Scituate. A lot of our local representation, representatives, that's kind of what sold our headquarters at that time, not decommissioning Station Scituate. I can't give a definitive answer. I do know that there are different funding buckets. Currently, there is a big surge, obviously the Caribbean, as we've seen in the news. So I'm not sure how that's going to fare for the Coast Guard being able to commit to $2 million, $3 million, shore facilities project. And I would actually say probably not. I mean, the Station Point Allerton, if anything, they would go to bolster that.
Yeah.
Broader coverage. So Dave, I think it's going to really depend on how that funding is bucketed.
Yeah, I was told, speaking of the harbor master up in Hull, that we are one of the few satellite operations on the East Coast in Scituate. I think they sort of, when it came up on whether or not to close, there was a lot of support, as you guys heard, and also we've got a very strong congressional group that is very supportive of there. And then, there's 1,400 boats that are operating out of our harbor and our rivers during the summer months. So it'll be very interesting to see how it goes. And that may be another one of those things where we may need support if they want to go, but they're gonna have to pay somehow. The town cannot afford. So where are we now, Brian?
I would just add one.
Where's the closest lift station around here?
Oh, 4 hour.
Cape Cod.
Oh, Cape Cod.
Cape Cod Canal
Cape Cod Canal.
or Boston?
Isn't Cape Cod Canal only staffed weekdays, 9 to 5?
That's, public knowledge. It's not. I will just add though, just one thing for community, for confidence in the Coast Guard, because I've got to get the flag.
There you go.
So the seasonal units were put in place when our response boats were a lot slower. They're a lot older. It would take them, a lot longer to get from a parent unit. So the closest Coast Guard station to us here, the Scituate, is Point Allerton and Hull. They've got to come out around through Hull Gut. They pass mine to get down here. They located these satellite stations or station smalls based on slower response time 25 years ago when the boats were faster. Now the Coast Guard boats are a lot more capable. They get more endurance, and they can get from Point Allerton to our area, within 30-35 minutes, depending on especially with the 45, the bigger orange boat that Point Allerton has now. So they can still respond to our area, but the legacy station smalls were here to support back when the assets were doing 15 knots. Now we can do 25.
Thank you.
To get on scene for a rescue. Wanted to make sure that was clear.
Thank you. Brian.
So last
Frank,
question.
I just asked you to tell the public what they paid today.
Oh.
Oh, hold on 1 second.
He's turning the page up there.
$270.86 a month.
Okay. Yeah.
A month.
So
That's what the public pays for the Coast Guard, the existing Coast Guard building.
No, the Coast Guard pays
they pay.
the town of Scituate.
Yes, yes.
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
Right.
$80 a month.
yes, right.
The lease.
And that includes, so they're not even covering the cost of the slip.
That includes the slip.
So that's about $3,000 a year.
So I want first dibs on like the building. This list.
No, that's their building. They'll take that
They
away,
built that.
right? We get the land back.
Good.
So they're
Brian.
paying for the rental of the land, so to speak. The last one, and that's what we're talking about, low side, assuming Seaport grants 5, high side 10. Really, we're talking $7 to $12 million. their portion of it therefore would be somewhere in the vicinity of 4 million, 3.5, something like that, as a standalone entity, if I midpoint this thing. So if the congressional delegation and the senators and et cetera were able to squeeze $4 million out of the Coast Guard to build a building, well, then maybe people would feel a little different. But if we have to pay, so that's the numbers. I don't know if anybody has any questions.
Did you have a breakout of what the cost would be just for the Coast Guard piece of it?
You mean if we didn't build anything else and somebody built a building?
No, I'm sorry, just like option 1 to 2, and then what is the
3?
3? What is that? You said 5 to 10 million, but we were at 4 to 6 on just option 1.
4 to 6, no, it's actually 7 to 12, right?
Oh, 7 to 12.
Take off 2 million, so it's 5 to 10, right?
Okay.
Debt service to the town theoretically.
Yeah.
If
but the
we
cost
had
is
to pay
7
it.
to 12.
Yes, cost is 7 to 12.
Do we have hard numbers on the overruns on the middle school and other buildings that were quoted and how much they went over the budget for this building?
No, what I
For
did,
this building, yeah.
what I do is I focus strictly on harbor master buildings and the hit rate on what we originally proposed and where the final numbers landed is, I would say, less than 40%. Probably even less.
If the Coast Guard is out, you said we would want the community to pick up a piece of this through taxation, probably because it would go back to the town, right?
Everything would go back to the different boards. That is correct. Whereas that was, Bill had brought that up.
We just paid a 21% increase in slip fees. My taxes have gone up 20%. I'm 200%.
No. You didn't pay a 21%. You paid a 10% increase and you didn't, right?
Yeah, 10%.
It went from 110 to 121.
Okay.
$11. Right.
Our taxes since 2012, my taxes have gone up 200%. So obviously I have fatigue. And
Everybody does.
I mean, I love the idea. Sounds fantastic. Totally can get behind what you're talking about, but
Maybe won't name them.
I think.
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to make sure we get the correct information to help make decisions. And that's why it's so great to have everybody here. So that everybody is on an even page as we work through this process. We can all sort of come together and then, work with the select board and figure out what's right for this community. We know that the building definitely needs some type of an upgrade. I think we're all very, very proud of our harbor. And having something really nice is great, but we still have to live. And some of us are on fixed incomes. So we're very, very aware of the financial aspects. And Brian used to have hair. Brian has been working his tail off to trying to get the right numbers. So that we understand where we're going to be. And he's put a lot of effort in it, and you can see that. So we're trying to be very disciplined on how we're moving forward with this. We also know that we're going back to the select board to talk about our capital improvements and what we're going to do, and they're on us about rates for the next 5 years. So we're trying to incorporate these dredging projects. We've got a couple other projects, and then we've got this project which is thrown at us. So we're trying to find out whether or not it's viable. So I think that's where we stand with this right now. Any comments from the commission?
No, just one last thing. Even without any of these buildings, we will have pressure in 2 to 3 fiscal years to look at some type of revenue increase. Historically, our revenue has increased about 1.5% once we spread any type of fee increase across a 5 or 10-year window. Our revenue increased about 1.5%, and our OpEx is about 5%. So when your expenses are outstripping your revenue, as anybody who knows who owns a house, obviously that's an untenable situation. So at some point down the road, yes, Rick?
No, I'm just.
Oh,
Next.
I don't know if you were blessing me or give me the finger. At some point, we will be looking with or without this building to go back, and that's what we've talked to the select board about, the fact that, this on top of just normal operations and the dredging that we have to do, this is a problem for the community, the waterways community.
The dredge paid for the, by the slip owners and this whole fund, is that paid? Yes.
Yes.
100% is paid for by everybody.
Waterways Enterprise Fund.
Yes.
So if you don't have a boat, if you don't have a mooring or a slip or anything like that, you're not paying. What's that? If you don't have a mooring or a slip, you're not paying for it. We're paying for all of it. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Brian, Cushing Landing. It
Sorry.
like it seems as though this is a very much of a two-part situation, and I think all the positive things about ADA and facilities for the public and transients is good. But as voters, especially voters that are in the outer harbor, that have very limited services, it's hard to sort of figure out what this project would benefit the outer harbor. That's number one. Number two, the outer harbor, the moorings, every year there's far, far fewer boats on moorings. And I think a lot of the boats that are in the harbor are older. And I think as someone said the other day, the boating public is aging and they're aging out. And it's very easy to see that there'll be far fewer boats out in the harbor on moorings in say 5 years, because a lot of these boats aren't being replaced. A big 40-footer is now going to be a 20-foot center console.
Yep.
So it seems as though, like, when you speak of the revenue stream going down, that's bad. And then those people that are on those boats, it's hard to see how all this ADA and bathroom facilities for the transients and the public benefit the cost that they would incur.
An excellent point too, because speaking with a bunch of harbor masters as we've been reaching out to find out where fees are around us, that's what they were saying. The fact that a lot of the boats are the center consoles, and you're not seeing those 30, 40, 50-foot boats anymore. So yes, it's changing right before our eyes. Mr. Murray.
Yeah, I just was gonna follow up on some of the comments that Brian was making about fees in general. So leaving aside the potential project, emphasizing the words potential. The select board has asked us to do a comparative analysis of our public rates. So, you know, we don't have anything to do with the rates going on to private marine. But the select board had asked us to do a comparison of the other relevant communities around for these, per foot rates that you just saw Brian put up there. They've also asked us to look into, for example, at the marinas, whether we should be charging for electricity, if you do your shore power, because certain other towns do that and we do not. And so we are in the process of responding to the select board's request to do that, to do those comps, to merge that with Brian Kelly's financial analysis, and to come up with a fee management plan over the next 5 years. So our fees are able to keep up with the need for whatever potential projects that we might have. So I would just ask, everybody here, make sure you're on the email distribution list about Waterways Committee meetings, because these are all going to be posted agenda items. And we'd like to have everybody here to chime in on their thoughts. You guys all go around, many of you go around to other marinas, other locations, and you can help us out on that. But independent of all these projects, the select board is tasking us to develop a 5-year fee plan. So we're not just looking ahead 1 year and saying, oh, Jesus, we're running a little short, so everybody's going up by 81 cents. To develop some sort of plan moving forward. Mike, to your point about, everybody getting pretty weary of increases here and there. Completely agree. As Deneen said, we're all aware of that. Many, if not all of us, operate vessels around here in the harbor. We're well aware of that. We're very delighted that the public rates are still way, way below the private marina rates. That's a tenet that many of us have been on this board for 20 years. We never want to violate that. This needs to be accessible for, regular folks, not only those 50-foot people. So please be engaged and get on the list, so you can come to these meetings and help us out with your input.
Yes.
Aaron Devine, 124 Front Street. This kind of taps into what you were just saying, and maybe you've already thought to ask the moms of these questions, but how necessary is it for the harbor master to have harbor oceanfront office space? Because if you look at, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think Cohasset, Hingham don't have physical space. Like, is there room in other town offices, like the police department, fire department, for the harbor master to use office space there?
Great question. Great point.
And that's something we're digging into. So, excellent. Yes, sir. Oh, somebody behind me. Hi.
Sorry, Debbie Langen, 4 Collier Road. My question would be is, I'm not sure exactly how the town budgeting works, but I know that the voters fund anything having to do with the waterways. But what about the other, 5 marinas in our harbor? The harbor master services people that are in distress from all the other marinas as well as their water fields, as well as everything else. Could we look towards one, for alternative funding, charging a fee to those other marinas to build the harbor master building, which services, and it services more than just the harbor and the boaters. We were talking about that before. We have the carnivals in town, we have heritage days, and then we have just the general public that comes in to spend a nice day in Scituate, parks in the parking lot, and uses the harbor master building. So is there any way to go to any fund in the town to have the town help fund, rather than the boaters' fees going up substantially?
Dave,
When we're
I
not
got it,
just, the
Dave.
voters aren't the only ones that are gonna benefit from this beautiful new harbor master building. I mean, if it's needed, it's needed. Is there a way to reach out and charge these other marinas? I mean, yes, they charge a lot, and we're very fortunate that we do have a town marina for town residents. But there's gotta be alternate funding.
Let me have Brian help you with that question.
Okay, we can answer that.
Hi, Deb. So there are approximately 1,400 boats that are either in private, public marinas, moorings, or trailers that all pay the waterway use fee of $125, no matter where you're located. So while their contribution is that, they obviously aren't in a town marina, or they don't have a mooring either. So the town set that up years ago. I believe it was back in 15, or prior to that, Stephen. Initially, it was,
Before that.
yeah,
It was in
15 and included everybody else, right?
but
Yeah,
07, 08, we put
Yeah.
that in for the private marinas.
right. So,
Before
So-
that, they weren't.
And the yacht clubs?
And in
So-
17, it was rolled out to the more holders as well.
So there'd be a one-time assessment saying we're building a new harbor master building. That fee just for that year is going to help fund it. And instead of 125, we're gonna make that 500.
Well,
I
that's
don't-
the list.
You know,
Yep.
I'm just trying to come up with like.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, Deb, good question.
yep.
So if you're gonna slip, you're gonna pay the increased percentage, whatever it ends up being. And you pay the extra on the water fees too. You pay dump, you pay more than other things.
Yeah.
There is
But
a,
the way it's proposed right now is you got the whole dip, not a double dip. You're paying everything. So it at least this disperses it somewhat. How much, I don't know.
up at Manchester by the Sea, they actually have a dredge assessment where they get clouded in every 4 years, and they have to dredge every 4 years, and they've actually got an assessment for just that piece up there. Yes, sir.
Well, now 3 Mill Wharf. I get 3 feet of water in my parking space. What's gonna be done about stopping the ocean from invading my parking space?
I think that's where the Cole Parkway committee is trying to figure that out for you now. And in
I'm
terms.
gonna have to pay a motor's fee.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, there's another revenue stream right there.
There we go.
You can rent your space out as a slip.
Phyllis.
$5, and I know a couple of people can help me, but for the new people in town, that $125 was sold to all of us in the harbor as a dredging fee. How do you like that?
No,
That's the one that's called harbor use fee.
No, the user fee.
Waterways.
The waterways user fee was supposed to be.
I'll jump in.
a fee that was accumulated for dredging the harbor when it was necessary. And look at how it's, well, yeah, there's only a few of them in the room here that would probably know that.
Yeah, I was there for it. Dredging was definitely one piece of it, but it was for the overall going into the fund to help the harbor master activities and dredging and everything else, so.
Well, those other extras were very minute,
Mhm.
you know, at the time,
Mm.
but it was to put it together a committee so that the harbor could be dredged.
Well, actually, you raise a good point, that the dredging costs are by far our largest project costs that we continually have going forward. There are many, many billions of dollars over the last 10 years, much more than the cost of the proposed harbor master building. But what's different, number one, is the national geopolitical landscape has changed financially. The grants are going to be drying up, but also there are there tend to be more grants for dredging in general. So a lot of the dredging costs, and you heard earlier today, Stephen talking about that, once you get everything permitted, often the state would kick in for 50% of those costs, which there's no way the state, for example, is gonna be kicking in 50% for a building. So the dredging costs have been really mitigated by these fees, so as said, most of the costs of that 125 do end up going to dredging, but everything else is.
Sandy Tedeschi, Gilson Road. I just have a question. I know we're all concerned about the handicap accessibility. Just need it. Why do we only have 2 handicap parking spaces?
Currently?
Currently.
That's a good question. Writing that one down. Thank you.
Yeah, that would actually fall kind of under the whole Parkway Redevelopment Commission, and they are looking at that and the number of spots out there.
Harbor masters, that should be.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Right.
You know, a thought relative to the combination harbor master.
Can I get a name, please? Name and address, please.
I'm sorry, Kirk Crowdy, 85 Edward Foster.
Thank you.
Relative to the combination harbor master, new office, and showers, toilets, all that. Maybe looked into possibly bringing in, the costs for bringing in trailers for just that half of it. I don't know what the cost might be, but bringing 2 trailers that have showers and bathrooms, they haul them out after the season's over.
That was actually a suggestion.
Yep, and actually,
They maintain them.
that's actually going on over at Egypt Beach this year as a test case right now
Yeah,
to see how those function.
you don't have to worry about flooding and jacking them up and all that, so.
Debbie Farrell, 124 Front Street. So my question is, as far as, it may be for the full property redevelopment. The boats, we have our boats. Families come, one has one car, another car. Is it, or this is not a recommendation, is it, a possibility of having metered parking?
I think that's something you have to take up with the select board.
That would be an issue. Meter parking. From public. So we're talking about the public using the facilities. Now there's metered parking. There's more cost to town.
So the town is being that.
Yeah,
Town getting revenue.
take that down. Sir,
Yeah, I had a comment, born and raised 19 Bay Ridge Road. I like the idea of
trailer. I was wondering if there has been any exploration on just an ADA accessible facility. That seems to be the crux of all of this right now. For the public, have the taxpayers fund that because it's open to the public.
Good point. Doesn't need waterfront property. Yeah.
To involve
True.
us. Make the ramps, you know, all the facilities.
Yes, sir.
If the Coast Guard does leave, couldn't that be converted into an ADA facility?
So again, something that we're looking into. So again, we're recommending.
Hold on,
to the-
hold on.
Well-
No, I believe the Coast Guard owns the building, so if they leave, they take it with them.
Or.
$70 though.
We lose the 272. Can't forget that.
We get an extra slip space.
You're gonna auction it off, just gotta put wheels on it.
There we go. I'll buy it. But it stay there,
Any-
270.
I got an answer to that.
For the meters,
To the meters?
meter,
Is there been conversation in the meetings?
Not us, because
No.
we're waterside, that's land
that's a
side.
select board.
So I'm a liaison to I'm part of Waterways, but I also sit in a meeting for Full Parkway redevelopment. That has not been something that was talked about at this stage, but right now it's still in the engineering design phase of it as they look at different ways to mitigate the flooding effects of it, and that's kind of the improved overall parking. But there are going to be some public meetings starting, I believe, in August, that the engineering firm is gonna put out public notices to, so people can come to the meetings and look at the renderings of what they're proposing and how they would do some of this stuff, so. I believe that will be August or possibly September, so look for any meeting notice on that, so. There'll be a whole phase of, I'm guessing probably 6 months worth of public input as they adjust their designs for Full Parkway and the areas around it, so.
How we doing? Everybody at least getting a better handle tonight? Any other?
I've got,
Yes, sir.
just circling back to Phyllis, your point. So our waterway use fee totals about 171,000 and change in annual revenue. Our dredge, of all the debt service, our dredge is sub 20,000 right now. However, we just dropped off 2 large dredging debt servicing that were done in the early 2000s when they dredged. And we're looking at probably in excess of the 171 between the 2 projects, probably closer to 200,000 in new debt service if we do the river and the harbor. So the waterway use fee still will not, it'll contribute greatly, but it certainly won't cover the cost of dredging. Sure.
Yes, sir.
Tom Benson, 14 Gilson Road, and I might have missed this, but
Yeah, you do, so we don't have to answer. No.
the decision process for this whole project is you guys are gonna recommend to the selectmen and they will,
No.
what is the?
Rick, you want to run with this or I'll do it?
Go ahead.
Thank you very much. I don't want it. You can have it. It's right. Anyway, no, this is there's parallel paths that are happening right now. So the town is looking at different options. They're kind of looking for our input, which they will receive. We are strictly advisory. We don't have the ability to stop a project from happening. However, once something is decided upon, whether it's 1 building, 2 building, 3 building, no building, rebuild the building, it then has to go to capital, which is another committee, advisory, and then the select board. And then only then is it presented to the town meeting where everybody votes on it. Did I get it right, Rick?
Pretty much.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Obviously, there'll be touch points between conservation and zoning and planning and all the rest of that, but
You can imagine
Yeah.
a scenario just based on this feedback here, right? This is a feasibility study only, et cetera, we're advisory, all that sort of stuff. One can imagine a scenario that once we get the final numbers, we get the final plan, we roll it all out, we send it all out, everybody, you guys and everybody else comes in. And we make a recommendation to the board of selectmen that says, we like this part of it, we don't like that other part. These are the things we think you should flag, you know, like finances and so on. And it goes up there. Maybe they say, okay, well, this is just too much money for all three. Yeah, so the Coast Guard's not coming. So, all right, sever that. All right, well, gee, maybe we should just put some trailers up there because most for the bathrooms. And so that would save us this amount of money, da, da, da. And that's gonna go back and forth between all the different panels, and then it's gonna come up with a plan. But then we'll go all the way up and get through all the committees and so on. So it's like iterative, like all the way through. When people talk about government being slow, it is slow, but that's because you go through all these committees and panels, hopefully you get, as I said in my earlier comments, we're just starting the process here. And as Mr. Haley said, you know, we gotta start with something, so we have something to talk about. Another point, just hearing everybody's addresses here from Collier Road and Gilson Road and all that. So I'm on Collier myself. Many of you probably see me walking around my dog. I'm the guy carrying the booper scooper.
I think what he's saying is he's welcome you to stop by his house anytime to talk about this.
Going up the book, walk around, stop, and let's just talk and get all your feedback going. Because I'm up on Collier myself, so Gilson and all those other people around. I also have a boat in the at the slip over at Marine Parkway, and I got a mooring, so I'm around the harbor a lot. Flag is down, always down there. Everybody here is down there. Just stop us and talk to us as well.
Yep. So just one comment. So we're part of it. You know, part of the process is here, and you know, part of our job here is to kind of make sure that what is being proposed can actually be done from a financial standpoint. Is what's the feasibility of it from our standpoint? So that's kind of what we're trying to kick around tonight and make sure that we have an understanding of what it looks like in a order of magnitude. Even though we don't have exact numbers, we have pretty good ideas of what it's looking like from the scale.
Yeah, I was just wondering if it was the same process as a senior center or the junior high.
Essentially.
Essentially.
Essentially,
Yeah, it is running through. Yes, sir.
Who paid for those drawings and how much did they cost?
The drawings, we paid for them.
Waterways Enterprise Fund.
Enterprise. And a grant?
Yes.
80% was paid by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Seaport Economic Council.
Right, Steve.
This was 80% or 75% of the new marine was paid for by Seaport.
So we still paid for it.
But
How much did those cost?
147.
187. Oh, wait a second. I might have.
45, roughly 145.
Yeah.
Hold on. It was,
No, our share was like 30,000.
I don't have our share here, but I'm sorry, I gave you the wrong
Our share was
information at the
about
beginning of the
30,000.
meeting. The total cost of this project was 136.
Our share was 20% of that. Our share was 20% of that.
Any other questions? We got a couple more minutes in our meeting and gotta get home. Yes, sir.
Why don't we have a bigger meeting all next time around?
Because normally there's only like no one here.
Yeah,
So you have to RSVP next
we
time.
we'll do a better job if we know that everybody wants to come back and be a part of this process. So we'll do a better job and have a better meeting space for everybody, so people. can
Correct.
fit.
We can move downstairs for that.
Yeah.
So we really appreciate this. meeting.
Library, yeah.
Let me run on to the rest of our meeting, which will probably take no more than 15 minutes.
Do you want to take a break to let some people leave?
Sure. Does anybody want to get the heck out of here and go do something? We can take a 5-minute break. and then
Because
finish
as
up?
soon as you all leave,
Oh.
we're gonna vote on something.
No.
Working with the Economic Development Commission, they're in the process of completing a marketing plan for the town. And they've asked us to look at some type of marketing plan for the harbor and incorporating it into the town plan. So we had a couple people on the marketing committee, and I know I was one, and really too sure who else was on that. But if anybody, I could use one other person to sit on the marketing committee and go to look at some options and work with the EDC. Great. Dave, be careful what you ask for.
I didn't know we had a marketing.
Wasn't TJ on it?
I did.
TJ.
Yeah.
He's been very quiet. It's like.
Oh, stick us.
That was a subtle way of saying.
See ya.
Sorry about that, TJ.
Unmemorable.
So we're gonna try to put together a brief marketing plan to incorporate with the marketing plan for the EDC. So that's been great. They've been really good, and I'll talk about them when we get into our liaison reports. A couple other things going, for you guys that don't know, I think it's the Scituate Harbor Business Association is having a duck drop. You know about the duck drop, Stephen?
Mike told me about it.
August 2nd, 9 a.m. I guess it's gonna be right on the other side of where they play all the music.
Okay.
And they're gonna
Next to the bandstand.
next to the bandstand, I guess right in that area. I don't know much more about it. I got what I could from Mike, but I just wanted to pass that on to everybody.
It's an Instagram. This is like people are doing this everywhere.
Duck.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a rubber duck.
And then, yeah, these little plastic ducks.
I think it's something on people do.
And yeah, it's like a race.
Could explain.
You
I see
pay,
it. It's
you
super
either
easy.
pay an amount for a duck, you put in a number on it, and you drop them, and depending on the tide or the winds, they go to a start line, a finish line, and
Yeah,
and they get
were
some
gonna do it
cash.
from the fire truck, drop it down, kind of, let's say the end where the gazebo is, but a little further down.
Yep.
And you drop it from a fire truck bucket, is what I was told, all at the same time, and then, like you said, they're numbered, so whatever one gets down closest to what's called the pump out dock first, or the gangway area, somewhere down there is the finish
And
line.
we'll have a winner.
We'll have one.
So I just want to give
Are they
everybody a
made
heads
of
up. No, they're rubber. They'll pick them up. So
The question,
I have,
Just some information, Hammerflock takes place and it's on the QG because, and Brian probably knows, that you have to get permission to be licensed. So I hope they know that.
Your license for what?
Be a duck.
Well, Hummerflock is a bunch of people floating on an inner tube. These are rubber duckies. Yeah. Yeah, but these are little rubber duckies in the duck drop. Not,
I'll talk to Mike about it, but
yeah,
Thank you.
get a permit.
Please get a permit.
Another thing that's happening around us, I'm told that there is a House bill on the state level, and it's House Bill 4110, and it's a bill to eliminate the North River Commission and put it back in the hands of the local town conservation commission. So I know that's running around. I haven't dug too much into it. That's more just as a heads up, so everybody is aware of that bill.
I believe it's on the select board agenda tonight.
Yeah.
Very good. Next, Mike Bierce is at it again, and he is putting together what he's calling a Fisherman's Feast or Fest. And it's going to be Saturday, October 28th, 12 till 5. It'll be on the commercial wharf, and it's going to really just sort of show off fishermen and the lobstermen and what they do, and there'll be food trucks, and I guess the ability to be able to go try different foods that come out of the ocean. How am I doing?
Ask Mike Pierce.
Okay, well, he's actually at town hall right now. But that's another thing that Mike's working on. So once again, trying to do a little bit more and incorporate the harbor a little bit more in the community.
Can I just add, the people that walk by where I was set up for the opening of the harbor?
Yeah.
Just the comments I heard there, this is wonderful, why didn't we do this before? And I know that the food trucks did very, very well, like, you know, better than they do during Heritage Days. I mean, I just wanna, I think, put an exclamation point on how well that turned out. It really, I think it's gonna be a staple, moving forward, but people are just like, I can't believe it. Did you guys do this last year, like this first year?
And
It's this overwhelming, like, outpouring of like, this was, you know, perfect timing. I think it exceeded our expectations.
Yeah, it was great. And you know how much it cost? Didn't cost anybody anything, really. It cost a lot of the in the water boats, fuel and oil, and the time there. But hopefully it was a good benefit for them, and we really appreciated having them all join us because it's about them. So yeah, really, TJ, it was a wonderful event, and hopefully we can do something like that again. And we'll see how Harbor Fest goes, and that could be another really nice piece. No. How's the radio station going?
Mike already reached out to me about this event.
What's the FM number on the dial?
101.3.
101.3, yeah,
Listen to it all the time now.
I do too, it's great,
And on the app.
on the app.
Wow.
Liaison reports, Economic Development Commission, I'm the liaison. And like I said, I attend their meetings monthly, and they are really focusing on trying to drive business in through marketing, and they're working on a marketing plan, which they've been on for about a year. We've been working with them on our events, and they're really excited about that. So they're gearing up right now for upcoming Heritage Days, which is going on. And of course, tonight is the start of the carnival. And so that's a good group. Item 2 is Cole Parkway Redevelopment Committee, and that's Mike. And Mike has told everybody quite a bit about what they've been up to.
So still in engineering design, I think August is what they're slated for, doing some public outreach meetings to start getting public input on the proposed designs in different ways they can accomplish different objectives, right? So they have 2 or 3 different kind of scenarios where they're targeting different areas of Cole Parkway. You know, some of it's got to do with parking, some of it's got to do with preventing flooding. Yes. And they'll start showing those renderings at public meetings to get feedback. So just keeping a lookout for that. I want to say there's going to be possibly sometime in August for the first one, and then maybe September after that. So
Looks like they did some wells too.
there was a while ago test.
Yeah, test wells to sort of see what's underneath it. So trying to make
the
sure they look.
Parking lot was built on peat moss and it was marsh. So
Yeah.
Okay, question on that?
Name and address, please, sir.
Yeah, again, Highway Edward Foster, so.
Thank you.
Is it the scope of that, whole thing project include going out to Bridge Street?
going out to Bridge
What's the
Street.
geography of the project?
You
know, if you deflect the water.
Yeah.
It goes somewhere else.
Right.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
right now, Bridge Street is already flooding. Is someone up looking?
So the scope of it is really from the corner of behind Nona's there, behind the Coast Guard building there, across Cole Parkway, right, up to Front Street, and up into those
Coffee Corner?
yeah, down past Coffee Corner. I would say pretty much to the small bridge that's there, and I don't know what they call that bridge, but that's pretty much what the scope is. There was some additional grant money that was provided to help address some of the private areas that are adjacent to it, to help, just from an engineering standpoint, not to do anything with it, but
Look at the impacts of, that project and the other side of the bridge as well, because someone made a comment, it's not only the inflow, but it's the outflow.
Yeah.
And it was looking at some repairs to some infrastructure that has since deteriorated, that used to help drain.
Right.
So someone looking at this.
that's part of the whole project itself. So it's everything from the drainage systems that are there and how to contain the stormwater runoff and
When we approached
Yeah.
the town, talked to them about flooding by the bridge and flooding. Over on Edward Foster.
Yeah.
They didn't indicate any projects that were looking at that.
Probably not over at Edward Foster, but really the project itself is really kind of more specifically about Cole Parkway.
Yeah,
And then-
I was.
Yeah. Yeah, but Corey's the person that's really kind of, she is the chair. I'm sorry, she's not the chair. She is,
No, I know.
yeah, spearheading a lot of this efforts, and she does a good job with it, so.
Okay. Anybody else, Cole Parkway? Thanks, Mike.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yep. Almost all of them, yeah.
Very knowledgeable.
Which meeting, our meetings?
No.
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 Park, right?
Oh, yeah.
I've been, 124 Front Street has a bit of a issue with the parking, because 25 years ago, we, were included with the Millward Development.
Yeah.
And our building wasn't included with having parking.
Yeah.
So it's a free for all
Yeah.
for us. So,
It's also the, you're totally right, I remember those days, and the difference between the private parking,
that's right.
right, versus.
So this is, hence the reason why I want to make sure that we're,
Absolutely right.
we're wanting to make sure that we're protected.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Okay, Dave, anything going on with Shellfish?
No, I haven't had an update on it, so. Nothing bad.
Okay. That's good. New business. The only interesting thing, there's no new business. We're gonna go back to old business. Our secretary, as everybody knows, we've separated from our secretary. Last month, I've spoken to to HR several times on trying to find another person. Of course, I spoke with Mike earlier today about the fact that we're paying for this person. And we really haven't had much support in that in the last couple of years. But we're still paying for it. So they were telling us on the town side is that we should just create another position within our group and have that person be the secretary. But my concern is, I don't mind with that, but if we're paying for somebody and we're not getting that service, then something needs to be done on the town level. Any thoughts on what we should be doing to try to get a secretary? Because I am horrible at taking notes.
So twofold, if I could just say. First of all, we only pay when she works.
Okay.
So we don't contribute unless she shows up.
Okay, I thought it might have been shared.
She's an hourly employee.
Yeah.
So she's not submitting hours. We're not paying. And I'll confirm that with Nancy to make sure we're not, well, whatever.
I did
Okay.
try, just so you know, the last couple times over the year to try to get a breakdown. I guess I didn't ask
I
the
have
right
it.
person. Okay,
Everyone's gotta do the teenagers. Get a volunteer.
It's not a bad idea. Yeah. Actually,
the community service for all the high school.
That community service, they've got their date time, they can manage their schedule,
yeah. And it's actually.
and they're
pretty
good,
easy for them
you know,
too. Yeah.
they know more about they can do a lot electronically than.
A lot of it comes from AI now, so
Right.
they just have to kind of.
That is-
Transcript, yeah. from
Yeah,
the-
it's nice with,
The due process that has to be in the minutes, you know, someone probably needs to teach them like that, but. Yeah.
it's much easier when we actually have these remote meetings because of the AI. When we're down at the Maritime Center, we're scribbling away on our pads trying to get the information without having one. So that's a great thought. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts or comments for the position? Okay.
It's been a problem for a while.
We need to fix our house.
We've had some really good on this.
We did.
Yeah, we have no police department update tonight. Fisherman, lobsterman, Dave, anything good? I know you want to get out of here and get to bed.
Yeah, Kev split, so I don't know, we're open. They kept us another 10 days and state water's closed. Got the gear in the water and then we had a good 4-day flow that scratched everything up.
Of course, right?
That was.
Yeah.
But everything's been sorted out. Bugs have started to fall, so it's good.
Great. Any other comments for any of the folks that have remained, our group that are.
Sneaking out, yeah.
Well, thank you for coming.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
If there are no other comments or suggestions, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Discussion.
Third.
Third.
In favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.